today we are talking about the connection between the military and technology, specifically technological advancement, okay? So I know that we've been talking about the Cold War, but to start our class today, I wanted to talk about some of the wars that came before that, most specifically the Civil War, World War I, and World War II. So I'm going to show you guys a bunch of things here on my PowerPoint, okay? And I need for you to tell me whether you think it happened for the first time in the Civil War, World War I, or World War II. And the way we're going to do this, so I'll count down, I'll tell you the thing, I'll give you a second to think, and then I'll count down from 3, 2, 1, and then I want you to hold up your hand to show me which war you think it was. Hold up a 1 for the Civil War, a 2 for World War I, and a 3 for World War II. And yes, I know, it's confusing that it's 2 for World War I and 3 for World War II, but we're just going to do this in chronological order, okay? So is everyone good with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Our first thing, fully motorized army. Which war had a fully motorized army? Okay, think about it, and now show me in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm seeing lots of different ideas here. The correct answer is World War II. In World War I, they were using horses still for a lot of their transportation. It was not until World War II that warfare became fully motorized. Okay, moving on. Number 2, war fought on land, air, and sea. Okay, think about it. Now show me. 3, 2, 1. Good job, everyone. It was, in fact, World War I. The submarines were obviously very famous, and they also started using airplanes for the first time in World War I. Okay? Now, our next one. Standardized shoe sizes. Which war did they first have standardized shoe sizes? Think about it. Okay, now show me in 3, 2, 1. It was, in fact, the Civil War.
Wow.
The Civil War was the first time they made standardized shoe sizes. It's because there was a severe shortage of shoes for the soldiers. And it became,
they didn't have shoes.
and to make it easier to develop and get these shoes out to soldiers that they desperately needed them, they standardized it so that they can make shoes faster.
That's cool.
So yes, that we can thank what the Civil War for standardized shoe sizes. Okay, next is major use of poison gas. Okay, are you all ready? 3, 2, 1. Good job, everyone. It was, in fact, World War I, where they first started using poison gas. In fact, in World War II, it was illegal to use poison gas. Okay, use of radar. Which was the first war where we used radar? Okay, think about it. You have your answers? In 3, 2, 1. It was World War II.
Yes. No.
Oh crap. No, I'm sorry. It was World War I.
Dang it.
No, it was World War II. I'm so sorry, guys.
That's okay.
I'm trying to remember all of these.
Yeah.
World War II, because, yeah, that's just when they developed it. And that's why Britain was able to survive the Battle of Britain, was because of their advanced radar systems. Remembering now! That was why they were able to do so well, as they could tell that the German airships were coming.
Nice.
Okay, next. Aerial surveillance. Which war had aerial surveillance for the first time? Okay, ready? In 3, 2, 1. You're right, Abby. It was the Civil War. They had hot air balloons that they would send scouts up in to look at the battlefield. Hey. They were surveilling from the air. They weren't fighting from the air, but they were surveilling. Okay, a dedicated camouflage unit. Which war was the first war where the U.S. troops, I guess specifically, had a dedicated camouflage camouflage unit. Okay. Show me in 3, 2, 1. It was, in fact, World War One. They had.
come up with that earlier.
I'm sure they used camouflage, but this was the first time they had a unit specifically dedicated to that.
Okay. Guerrilla warfare. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Now, peacetime draft, which was the first war where they had a peacetime draft. Think about it. Okay. Now, 3, 2, 1. Yes, it was World War II. Hey, Abby, we speak with respect to people in this class. Yes, World War I, the U.S. did not even join the war until it was
Oh yeah.
already in. World War II, they did in fact start drafting people even beforehand. When they started, before we officially entered. Because our military was not very strong at the start of World War II, so we kind of needed to prepare if we wanted to get engaged in this. So, now, use of tanks, which is the first war where we used tanks. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Good job, everyone. It was World War I. They weren't very good, they weren't very useful, but they were there.
Yay. Were they pulled by horses?
Sometimes. So here we have our list, and I know World War II and then World War I. I'm not sure why I did that, and I'm sorry. But here's our list. Civil War, we had standardized shoe sizes and aerial surveillance. World War II, we had fully motorized army, use of radar, and the peacetime draft. And in World War I, we had war fought on land, air, and sea, major use of poison gas, dedicated camouflage unit, and use of tanks. All of these technologies came out of wars. And I know what you're thinking. Why should I care about any of these technologies? I don't care about tanks.
A little bit about tanks.
But this is where we're going to move back to the Cold War, because a lot of the technologies developed in the Cold War have become useful in civilian use to this day. So now I'm going to split you all up into groups. Well, not exactly. I'm going to count you off, and you're each going to read about one of these technologies. You're going to have 5 minutes to do this, and then you're going to jigsaw yourselves together. Which basically, if it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to form a group with all of those. And you're going to tell each other about your technologies, okay? So I'm going to count you off, and I'm not actually going to do this right now because we're just going to skip this section of individual study, and then you come together and discuss with your groups. But we're just going to skip over that for right now because we only are recording a 15-minute segment of this lesson. So I'm just going to tell you what those technologies were. Just a sec. So, these technologies were space technology. Do you remember when we talked about the Cold War and the space race to the moon?
Yeah.
Yeah? So a lot of that technology is still being used by NASA to explore the universe. Then we had portable cameras and recording devices. These were developed for, can you guess?
Spying?
Spying, yes! They were creating smaller and smaller cameras for their spies during the Cold War. And now these same cameras are in our smartphones. Then we also have nuclear power, because for better or for worse, nuclear power was developed out of the Cold War's mass production of nuclear weapons. And it's caused some good and some bads, but a lot of people get their technology from nuclear power, so it is important. And last, but definitely not least, was the internet. The internet was emerged from military technology. The ARPANET, the precursor to the internet, was developed by the American military as a network of communication across the country on servers that were decentralized as a way to safeguard against potential nuclear attack.
Wow.
So, considering all of this, I have a couple of questions for you guys. So you all know our government today spends a lot of money on the military. A lot of money. Like, we have one of the largest budgets for military in the entire world. So,
Do you know who's second? I wonder who's second.
it's complicated
Yeah.
because it's like a percentage of, like, you know, we can spend more money than, say, North Korea can, but, like, they spend, like, a larger percentage. You know, it's complicated.
Sure.
So, but considering the fact that we spend so much money on our military, learning all of this about the technologies that have come from military use, do you think it's justified to spend so much money on the military, considering that many of the technologies developed by the military will eventually probably become used for civilian use?
Yeah.
So what do you guys think?
Well, I think just because military has driven innovation doesn't mean it should drive innovation. It's not the only thing that can drive innovation. And so I think we'd be better off trying to support those other ways of driving innovation.
Yeah.
Because we should be able to push the boundaries of technology without the focus being destruction. So.
Yeah.
I agree. So I looked it up because I'm using my phone in class. Which is okay. Apparently, the U.S. military expenditures are basically the same as the next 7 countries combined, and we spend more than twice as much as the people after us, which is China. For every dollar that China spends, the U.S. spends $2.77. And I know that the U.S. is supposed to be like this big force for like taking care of the world, but it kind of seems like, I don't know if this is super relevant, but it kind of just seems like a lot of the attitude towards military spending has come from we have to be the best, and that's not necessarily, I feel like the money is not necessarily being spent on things that are helping civilians so much as it is as like bigger, faster, better bombs kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I need my bombs to be super fast.
Okay. Well, so clearly you think we're spending too much, but what technologies can you think of right now that the military uses that might be useful for civilian use?
Maybe communication stuff.
Communication stuff, yeah. The military has to know has to be able to communicate with each other really well, so that could help civilian life. Can anyone think of anything else? Darcy?
I don't know. I don't know what the military's doing right now.
How about drones? Can anyone think of... I know that when we hear about drones, we think about airstrikes and death and destruction, but what are some ways that drones can be useful?
Taking awesome wedding videos.
Exactly, yeah. That's something people use drones for, and this was a military technology.
People use it for mapping, especially like endangered forests, like they use it for the Amazon, and for other like habitats and things. It's like a way to monitor without being super intrusive too.
See? So there's that. But let's go the opposite direction. I mentioned why do I care about tanks earlier. Well, something that you might not know is that lots of U.S. police departments get surplus military equipment.
Ew.
And there have been situations where police departments get tanks, and they get automatic weapons, and they get camouflage. How do you guys feel about that?
They don't need that to do their job.
No, you think that might be contributing to some of the problems we have in our country?
Feels like a leading question, but yes, I do feel like that is contributing to some of the problems in our country.
So, to conclude our lesson today, the military is not ever going to go away. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we all agree on this?
This is true.
Okay. But it's not necessarily all bad. Obviously, it defends us, and it can cause problems with like invading different places and wars. But as we can see, a lot of really good things came out of the Cold War. Our smartphones, the internet. Those are both things that I personally really enjoy. So I think that for all of us to be able to just remember that there's always multiple sides to things, and it's never as clear cut as you might imagine. So now I'm going to pass out your exit slips, which I'm not actually going to but you'll be able to write down how you felt about the connection between military and technology, and write down any questions you might have for me that we could discuss at the beginning of next class before moving on to our next subject, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for coming today, guys.
You're so welcome.